YouTube. So I modded this champ a while back and put up a video of it, and I got tons of questions about it. A lot of messages and a lot of people asking, what did I do? Hey, I thought I was going to get some instructions to mod the amp and stuff like that. So I put together a little something on paper for you. I'm not going to open the chassis. Oh wait, if you're on the YouTube police, this video is going to upset you, so you should just go now, because I'm not going to play the amp. I'm just going to talk. So you should go away now if you're going to get butthurt about talking. Alright, now that that's out of the way, I'm not going to open the chassis and show you like, hey, take this resistor off, this one right here, and do this, and put this lead here, and connect that, and unsolder this. I think that's not the way this game should be played. I think if you're going to be monkeying around inside tube amps, then you should learn up to a certain point where you're not going to hurt yourself. And I think when you get to that point, you're going to have a decent idea of what's going on back there. So you'll be able to take a diagram like this and make the mod happen really easily. Alright, so sorry if you don't like that, but it's a dangerous game, and my opinion is you should learn enough to be safe. And Gerald Weber's got some good videos. Go check out Gerald Weber's videos on discharging filter caps and that kind of stuff. He even goes so far as to, like, when you discharge your filter caps, you got your amp unplugged, you check the positive terminals on your filter capacitors to ground, and you see how much voltage is left there. And if there's any there, you shunt it to ground. And he even connects an alligator clip to the positive leads on it, positive terminals on his filter caps, resistor in between, connects it to the chassis, so there's a constant path for any of the voltage that builds back up in the filter caps to go to ground. Because you ever mess with these tube amps, you know that even after you discharge the filter caps, you sit there with your multimeter on them, you can watch the voltage really slowly climb a little bit. It goes up to 1 and 2 volts and 3 volts. So he even keeps a steady, an open circuit to ground from the positive leads of the filter caps. Anyway, sorry, tangent. Alright, what I got here is a push-pull 500K audio taper pot, which I mounted in the number 2 input, because who uses that on a Silverface champ, right? So 500K audio taper, push-pull, right there. And what it allows me to do is when I lift the pot, when I pull out on the pot, it basically lifts the mid-cut resistor out of the circuit, and all the circuit signal that's going to ground off the back of the bass pot gets to go out the speaker instead, right? Where a lot of mid frequencies are wrapped up in that circuit, and there's a lot of signal, and there's a lot of gain in that signal that gets sent to ground off the back of the bass pot. So when I lift it, pull the pot, it lifts that resistor. There we go, resistor lifted. When I have it in and the pot cranked open, it's a stock amp. That setup right there with the pot all the way open, pushed in, has that 15K kilo ohm resistor off the back of the bass pot connected to ground, just like a stock amp right there. When I start decreasing the level of the pot, what that does is it's adding resistance to stacking resistance on top of this 15K resistor that's on the back of the bass pot. Stock tone stack, stock amp, you're going to have this resistor connected to ground right here. So what's happening is that signal, very little resistance right here, a lot of signal, mid frequencies and a lot of gain gets sent to ground right here. When you start opening this pot or closing the pot, it starts adding resistance to this resistor, and therefore more resistance equals harder for this signal to make it through this chain, so the signal goes the other way to the power amp and out the speaker. Alright, so you can vary this up to 500K plus 15, because resistors in series, add them together, add the values together, so you got 515 kilo ohms of resistance total ish, right? I mean, this pot isn't exactly 500, but you get the idea. So you can vary that amount of resistance up to 515K or so. So more resistance equals, less signal escapes to ground and goes away, more signal goes out the amp, right? So this is the way your push-pull pot works, in case you don't know. You got your three poles for your pot. one goes to ground, and then when you pull up on the switch, this is middle lug is your common lug, because this one either connects to the top or the bottom lugs, poles I guess you could say. When you pull up, these top terminals are connected to the common, and when you push down on it, these bottom two terminals are connected to the common. So there's that. And the way I wired it is, if you're looking inside the chassis at the back of your bass pot, that's what it looks like ish, you know, from the cutout right here. You got your 15K pot coming off this lug right here of your pot, and it's going to ground on a stock amp. You just lift it from ground, connect it to a wire. You know, this is going to be on, this pot will really be over here inside the chassis, you know, because, you know, your bass pot, treble pot, etc., volume, and then your input jacks are over here. But there's I just connected a wire to this one and connected a wire to this terminal in the pot. This one is going to the side of the pot, right? It's soldered it to the side, so it's grounded. And you know, your pot grounds itself to the chassis when you connect it to the chassis right here when you bolt it on. So this goes to ground. This one I connected a wire from the center lug down to the common pole on the pot, and then from the bottom on the same side, I run this wire to ground, and I grounded that to the chassis. I just took up one of the nuts on the power transformer and put a terminal on the end of this wire, just put it over the bolt, screw the nut back down, good to go to ground. So what happens is when the switch is down, these two are connected, so you just have basically a complete circuit with 15K, and with this pot all the way cranked open, you have, you know, I guess zero resistance, right? I mean, it's not true zero, but basically for all intents and purposes you got zero resistance, so the signal just goes boom, 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 boom to ground. Right, so that's your stock amp with this pot open, button down, stock amp. You pull up, it breaks this circuit, and there's nothing here, so it basically just severs this circuit. It's the same thing as lifting that resistor off ground, and all that signal that was escaping now goes through the amp, right? And then again, when you turn your pot, it varies the amount of resistance that gets added to this 15 kilo ohms, and you get up to 515 kilo ohms of resistance between this resistor and ground, so it stops more signal from getting through. So you got a lot of options, and I found that I like this a lot better because you can vary how much resistance you put on that mid cut. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and hit me up. But this is pretty straightforward. I don't talk about the negative feedback loop here, of course, but that's pretty easy to find in the web too. You just basically lift the wire that's connected to the tag board coming off the output. So yeah, that's it. Any questions, you can feel free to ask, but I think that pretty much covers it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you guys go crazy and mod your amps and have fun.